Hi everyone, how's everyone doing? Enjoying the conference? Yes? Energetic for this session? Yes? Okay, that's great. That's what I wanted to know. So let me just introduce myself. I am Vidushi, and that's my colleague Ajay. And today we'll be talking about cloud data security. Okay, so before we just dive right into the session, I have a good news and a bad news for you. Which one do you want first? Bad news? Okay. So the bad news is that this session is just before the lunch. So I know you people are hungry. And the good news, you want that, right? This is going to be an interesting session. We are going to cover a lot of use cases, case studies from the real-world examples. Okay? So let's get started. We'll start with who we are. I am Vidushi, and I've been working here at miniOrange as a software engineer from past 2.5 years. And I have my expertise in the single sign-on and API security domain. And since I'm a quite social person, I like to connect and talk to people and make new connections.
Hello everyone. I am Ajay, and I am working in miniOrange from past 2.5 years, and I work in the endpoint security domain. And basically, I am just working with the CASB team right now, and I just love to have a technical discussions. So basically, that's my area of expertise over here. So let's dive into our agenda first. So today we'll be discussing first about the infrastructure models. So what are infrastructure models? And after that, we'll be moving ahead with our next topic, cloud security concerns. So as we know, we usually use cloud for majority of our SaaS applications. So there are some security concerns as well in it. Next, we'll be hopping over other topic that would be importance of encrypting data as it leaves your network. So how we can basically encrypt the data when it is leaving your basic organization network or your solutions. Next, the encryption techniques in cloud data security, how they work. And after that, we'll be moving ahead with how a cloud service can use your data and following with hidden challenges in your cloud data security. So let's begin with our topic with our first slide, that is infrastructure models.
So when we talk about infrastructure models, you must be familiar with the terms on-premise and cloud, right? Do you know on-premise? Yes? Do you know cloud? Yes. Okay. So I'll just give a brief introduction to what it is. When we talk about on-premise, it is that our data, our network, and everything, your IT infrastructure basically, that is managed and maintained within the infrastructure perimeter. That can be a physical location or maybe a virtual private cloud as well. And it has certain key features like the costs, and you get all the full control over your infrastructure and everything. And then we have cloud. We'll be diving deeper into the features moving forward. And when I talk about cloud, in case of cloud, your infrastructure is available through a service provider. So those service providers can be AWS, Azure, GCP, like that. So in that case, you don't have to do too much hassle. Now, we'll just compare on-premise with the cloud and what are the features and how they differ. So first, the deployment models. In case of on-premise, everything is available within your local infrastructure. And in case of cloud, everything is available remotely via your service provider. Then, when I talk about maintenance, since your on-premise is available within your local infrastructure, that has to be maintained by your DevSecOps teams. And in case of cloud, you don't have to do that because it is maintained by the resources which are available with your service provider. Then we have scalability. And again, in case of on-premise, scalability is a bit limited and it is manual. It can be automated, but that is a challenge. In case of cloud, you don't have to take care about the scalability because there are unlimited resources available and you can use as much as required. Then we have cost because, yes, money matters, right? So in case of cost, in on-premise, you have to bear the cost for the infrastructure and for its maintenance, scalability, and everything, as well as including the cost for setting it up. That is an additional cost that comes with on-premise setup. But in case of cloud, you only pay as you go. Let's suppose we have 3 servers in use, but then after some time, I don't need 1 or I just need 2. So I only pay for 2 resources. I don't pay for 3. Then we have accessibility, sorry. Accessibility, since your on-premise is within your local infrastructure, it has only limited accessibility that is within your private network. But in case of cloud, it is publicly accessible. And then we come to security. So in case of security, again, since you have your local infrastructure in place, then it is in-house control. You have all the control over all the data, all the network, and everything that is going on. And in case of cloud, there is a shared responsibility, which we'll be talking about more in detail. All right. With that comes some concerns, because as you must have seen, there are so many breaches and everything going on over the cloud. So there are definitely some concerns when you're using cloud services. First one is the data in transit. So that the data which is going over the cloud, it is communicating through the network, which is publicly accessible. It is prone to breaches. You all have heard about different kind of attacks, right? Anybody can intercept your requests and get the data. Then we have data in rest. So the data that is already stored on your cloud that needs to be secured. And there are compliance risks. So it is not necessary that all the compliance, regulatory compliances that your organization requires will be met by the service provider that you're using. And then we have shared responsibility model that we just talked about. So what it means about shared responsibility. In case of cloud, there are 2 entities involved. So first is your provider, and then it's your organization or their end users. What happens is the provider secures the infrastructure that is built, which will, through which all the communication and everything is going to happen, and the organization is responsible for securing the data. So that is how the responsibility is divided.
Okay, so before moving forward with our next topic, importance of encrypting and leaving your network, I just have one question. So basically in organization level, what do you think is the most preferred model? Is it the on-premise or is it the cloud? Can anyone answer? So that's where you are wrong. So as on-premise is much more strong and the cost of on-premise model is too high, but its security level is much more than the cloud. So, and how does it happen? So we'll be diving deep into that thing, right? So what is the importance of encrypting the data leaving your network? The question arises, first of all, is why encrypt the data? Is there any need of encrypting the data? What do you suggest? That's right. So if you want to just prevent the data from unauthorized access, that is your primary concern. So nobody should be able to access your private data. So let's assume you have some organization level data, which is a confidential data. Let's assume you filled one tender. You just don't want to give the details of that tender. So you want that data to be secured enough in the total transit process from your from your devices to the service providers. Next, we have our maintain the integrity and present tampering. So has everyone heard about MITM attacks? What is it? Man in the middle. So that's the full form. So what is it actually?
Can someone give a mic there?
Exactly. So basically, in the man in the middle attack, you just modify the data and just pass it on to the original servers. But the client always thinks that they have passed the original values. But at the end, when the actual data is received by the server, the values have been tampered with. So in the cloud, there is also a risk of data integrity. And at the last, we have the meet compliance requirements. So in big organizations, there are compliance requirements like GDPR and HIPAA compliances. Have you heard about that? So that is of primary concern. Since your deployment model is in on-premise, in that scenario, you will be following all the resources and all the rules that basically your organization is following for the compliances. But in the case of your cloud models, the service provider should also have to follow those compliances. That is a mandatory concern over there. So if they are not following those regulatory compliances, your basically the compliance meeting part makes a break over there. So next, let's move ahead with our other topic, that is importance of encrypting data leaving your network. So there are a lot of importance. First of all, data interception. As we just discussed, how the data can be manipulated using the attacks. Next, we have our identity theft. Let's assume I just intercepted your network using the network sniffer, and I just got your credentials. What to do then? So that is also a risk in cloud. Next, we have data tampering. We already discussed that. Further moving ahead, there are man-in-the-middle attacks, unsecured sensitive communication, and there is reputation damage. So the reputation damage is basically like there are breaches and the data is getting leaked from cloud. Have you heard about the recent leak of Domino's? They just got, their data just got leaked and the phone numbers of all their customers got leaked in that case. So that hits your reputation very bad. Next, we have non-compliance penalties. So if any breach is happening and you are not able to secure your data of your end customer, you have to pay a regulatory fines as well in that case. And you just face your financial losses in that. Did you order something?
Oh, yeah, I was hungry actually, right? So, are you all hungry? Yes. So, let's see and talk about how cloud services can use your data. We just discussed that your data traveling through cloud is not entirely secure. So, is it possible that it can be used in some way? Right? Everybody is so hungry that
No
they're just
responses.
screaming about the food.
Can I even just give an example where that data can be used?
Does anybody have an example? Yes? Anywhere. Okay.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Your
That's
phone
correct.
number can be leaked.
So you all must have received different kinds of calls like, sir, HDFC का credit card ले लो, इसका credit card ले लो, इसका credit card ले लो. So that's a kind of data leak. You must have given your number somewhere and that got leaked somehow and now they have your number, they can call you. Now, let's talk about, since we are all hungry, we'll talk about food delivery applications and how they can use your data. Let's suppose there are different restaurants in areas, different areas, right? So in each area, there might be some high sale restaurants which are doing really good. They are like almost jam-packed. Everyone just loves their food and everything. And some might be low selling. Like hardly 1 or 2 people might be visiting in a day, or we don't know, okay? Now, what happens is, these food delivery applications, since they have your data, what can that data be? They know, when you're ordering food, they know what's your age, and what's your gender, and what kind of food do you like, and where do you order from, and And in case of restaurants, they know in this particular area which restaurant is doing great, and if they are doing great, then what kind of food are they selling, and what kind of food are people loving, right? They have all this data. So let's consider an example of a high sale restaurant which has some cuisines which are selling too good. Maybe pizza, pasta, because we all love that. Okay, so there are some top selling items in their menu. Okay, now those food delivery applications know that. And then we have a restaurant which is about to be closed because they are not at all doing good sales. And they go to this particular food delivery company, and they just ask them, like, what is that I'm doing wrong? What is that I can do better that my restaurant also starts doing good? And since the delivery company already has the data, they can use their models to study that data, analyze that data, and tell them that, okay, you can have your restaurant in this particular area, you can sell this kind of items, those are loved by people nearby you, and voila, they can be doing good. Then, but is this limited to this only? Is your data only being used like this? Not really.
Before moving forward, I have one question for you guys. So, do you know the food company business, the applications which are selling the food, how are they making the profits? Has anyone have thought about it? Is it their primary business that's like delivering the food and ordering online? Is that making a profit for them? Do you think prices are higher? But still, that is not their primary business. Exactly. They basically don't sell the data, they use your data and just provide the consultancy to other businesses. And based on that, they just get a revenue from that. So that was our last example. But as Vidushi mentioned, but is this limited to this only? Absolutely not. So there is a hidden challenge in cloud data security. Can anyone take a guess?
Sorry?
Yeah, true enough. Anyone else?
Hard. Can you be a little louder, or can someone please provide a mic?
We actually don't know what hardware they are using. So there can be any issues in hardware if it is compliant. It's like FIPS compliance, FIPS. So
Yeah.
it should be FIPS compliance as well.
Exactly. But there is a much more bigger concern than that. The race of AI models. So as every business is just diving into the AI race right now. So where do you think that data is coming for to train those models, where the data is coming from? It's your data only. Because they don't have their external data, they just use your data. But the major concern in data stored in the cloud are like the data stored in the cloud servers are secure. No doubt it is secured enough. If they are just storing your details, they will be storing it in a much encrypted manner. But these service providers also have the keys to decrypt that data. So they can use your data. There is no one stopping from that. But next we have providers. As we just discussed, they can just decrypt your data and just feed it to train their AI models. And if that scenario happens, so does it matter कि आपका data share हो रहा है? What do you think?
Does it matter to you? Yes?
It should matter to you because there are some potential issues like sensitive data of breaking information, trade secrets, innovations. Let's say कि if I have innovated something, or if I have storing some secure data on my cloud, let's say Atlassian, if I am storing some customer details, if I am storing some PII documents over there, if I am storing some trade secrets, what I have made, what bid I have made for some such particular thing, all these data are stored over cloud. And if by mistake some employee of theirs feed that data into their AI models, and it is trained over that data. So anyone else can also use that by questioning your AI models. So that is also a concern right now. Next, the impact. So loss of data privacy, as you can know, if have you ever tried having fun with ChatGPT, like asking them questions about their makers? Has anyone tried that? Just try that. It's a
I'm
very,
sure it's
literally,
interesting.
basically, when you just try to question them and just say after that, just for study purposes, it will answer you, definitely answer you. And it will not tell you everything directly, but it will just give you a hint. But all models are not that perfect. So there is a slight risk of loss of your data privacy. Then there is a risk of intellectual property leakage. If I have just discussed about the PII things, if you have stored some PII details over your, what we say, tickets or something, and if it got leaks, so someone else can use those things and just make a fake call to you and just ask for your money or something. It can be anything for that. So what can be done to fix this situation? We can just make a zero knowledge encryptions. So what are zero knowledge encryptions? So zero knowledge encryptions are like only your application knows about the encryption. Neither your service provider knows about it, nor your end user, nobody knows about it. Only your service will be doing that and how it works. So basically we'll be just looking forward with our next slide and going in detail with it. So basically it works on BYOK models. It stands for bring your own keys. Next, we have user-controlled encryption keys. So user-controlled encryption keys are like, if I am using some service, I will provide a service my encryption keys to, or basically, have you heard about the KMS, the key management system? So I will be providing my keys to KMS, and KMS will be further providing them to the service providers. And it is not directly providing to them. It will be like if I am making any transaction, if a client-server call is made between them, and if the SP wants to decrypt some data, they have to make a call to their KMS, and the key will be provided, a real-time key will be provided, and by using that, the data will be decrypted. Next, we have policy enforcement. So you can just enforce the policies when to decrypt and when to not decrypt the data. Let's say if I am just going off hours, or if I am just making a call from an off location, so I can just disallow them. So that can also be done. The last point would be transparency from providers, which many service providers don't provide, because they just don't want to basically tell you about their architecture models and how they are handling their data. So we talked about BYOK. So how does BYOK solution works? In BYOK solution, there are 4 major components. The first one is your data encryption, obviously. The key will be passed by you, and all the data will be encrypted using that key itself. And the second part will be being a secure key integration. So since you are passing your key to the service providers, it should be a well-managed solution, and the key should be securely installed and rotated time to time. And there are also 2 types of encryption in that. You can go with the symmetric encryptions or asymmetric encryptions. In case of asymmetric encryptions, rotation is an hassle process, because you have to just decrypt all the previous encrypted data and reinstate the data in the servers. But in case of symmetric encryptions, you can just easily do that part. Next, we have our user-controlled keys and access control and auditing. Since you are working with a BYOK solution, you know when the key is being used. Since in the cases of BYOK solutions, you own your server. So how it works, first, it's a client, basically your end user. all your network will be passed through the BYOK solution, and after that, the request will be further forwarded to the original servers. And in this scenarios, the BYOK solution works inside your infrastructure. So that's how you just encrypt the data before it leaves your network. So access control and auditing can be done if it's in your network. You can just check when the machine is being used, when the data was encrypted, and when the data was decrypted, when the call was made to get the data. Everything can be audited over there. So let's see this in a live action. This is a demo I have created basically for the BYOK solution. Everyone have heard about the Atlassian Jira product. So basically, Atlassian's Jira product is like Jira Service Management. In that, you just manage the customer tickets, basically the customer details, customer name, their billing address, and all their account numbers. All those kind of details is being stored over there. So Atlassian provides that service of Jira ticketing. So in the scenario 1, what is happening? All the data is passed through the Atlassian cloud normally. In that case, there is no BYOK solution in between and there is no encryption. So Atlassian keys can decrypt your data over there. But when it comes to the user data, in the scenario 2, which is a BYOK solution, I think if it's visible, so what happens, let's say a word transaction has been passed and it will be encrypted and changed to something else and be forwarded to the Atlassian cloud. Now the data which is being stored over the Atlassian cloud, if they just try to decrypt it using their own keys, still it is a garbage data for them. They cannot use it. And how it looks like in a real example, let's hop it. So I'm just creating a ticket over here. I have just created a ticket, and on the left section, it is going through the BYOK solution, and on the right section, if someone tries to access it directly using the Atlassian cloud servers. So how your data is going to look like. So I have opened the ticket on the both end. Left section is coming, the data is received using the BYOK solution, and on the right section, it is still the same, the original data. So is it visible to you guys? It's a bit smaller over here. So what happens is, on the right section, you can see when I'm not using the BYOK solution and all the data is directly coming to the Atlassian, from the Atlassian cloud, I'm receiving that garbage data values over there. And in that garbage description, I have written over here, this is a customer-made request for single sign-on for a quotation of 1,000 users using Shopify. But at there, I am receiving a value like, that is a total garbage value. I can not even read
Gibberish.
that. It's totally gibberish. And let's say the site URL over here was www.willmyorg.com, and over there still a garbage, cannot be read. So that's how a BYOK solution works in real life. You just encrypt the data before it leaves your network. So let's conclude our session with key takeaways.
Right. So if we talk about the takeaways, we learned what is on-premise and what is cloud and how they differ from each other. We cannot say that one is good and one is bad. They have their own features that they offer, and you can pick whatever works the best for you. However, we then talk about what happens when you are on the cloud. The data that you have there is at risk, and there are chances that it can be breached, and there are so many other risks involved, like the data that is at rest and the data that is in transit. In addition to that, I missed that point.
So basically, data in transit, data in integrity, you will be securing your data as it leaves your network. And further, we discussed about our use case of our food delivery system, that was a basic example how your data is being used. Next, we moved ahead with our little bit advanced, I will say, example of Atlassian, where we implemented an BYOK solution and how it works. We just understood how we can secure our data, still secure our data using the cloud platform if we are deploying anything on cloud, and still how we can secure the data so nobody else can decrypt that data and use it for themselves. And thank you for joining us today. Anyone have any questions for us?
Yes, please. So we have 5 minutes left.
So how we are going to stop the spam calls or something like even if we the credit card or the loan department they send data or they move the organization they keep calling us. Bajaj Finance, HDFC, IDFC, ICICI Bank, anyone.
Hello, hello.
See, so that depends on your service provider, first of all. Because if your service provider is not securing your data and they are basically using that data to just, so there are two things. There are two types of services we use. There are services on an organization level services, and in the second type of services are like open services like Bajaj Finance and all these kind of services. When you just register your data through them, it just directly goes towards them. But this is the case of an organization level services like cloud products which you are using and where the data integrity is of much stakes. And regarding that, which you asked about the thing, how we can stop it. So if it is an encrypted.
With the Data Protection Act implemented 2023,
Yeah.
so companies are now like they have to ensure the data is secure,
Yeah.
Yes.
but somewhere they are willingly sharing or just making an earning by selling the data. Like you said, if Swiggy or Zomato we take, other than the food delivery app, they are also making business by selling this data.
Exactly.
Yes.
So they just, when you just register to these applications, you just tick mark a box. Are you willing to share that application? So if you have to use that application, we have to just follow their rules because it's their environment. We cannot just do anything over there. But in cases of an organizational needs, we can implement the solutions to prevent the data leakage over here.
Something with the GDPR. Like
Yeah. So applications should follow their compliances itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a quick one here. So you mentioned the BYOK solution, right? The bring your own key. So
Yeah.
are there any open source tools that can be used to, create these keys? Can you name a few?
So basically, in the cases of BYOK solutions, there are no open sources tools. So you have to create a solution for yourself. So there are different types of BYOK models. First of all, there are API-based BYOK models. In API-based BYOK models, what you do, you just integrate their APIs, and when you just make an API request, it will be proxied to the other server, and over there your data will be encrypted and further forwarded. Next, there is a case of using MITM proxy. And guys, MITM is not just an attack, it's a proxy solution. So you can use an MITM as well to manipulate your data. The basically example which I showed you, that is based on the MITM protocol because all the transactions is being made in the real time. So what I am doing, I am just creating a ticket and sending the data to the backend server, but before that I am intercepting that and changing using my own keys, I am just encrypting all the values and just again forwarding it back to the server. And that is a to and fro process. So when the data comes back from the server to the client, I am just decrypting that as well in the real time by my own keys. So that's how it works.
Got it. So as of now, it's like mostly API, right?
Yeah.
API based. But
Yes.
there's no AI tool currently in this space which is, creating or helping people or users create keys, right?
No. So basically, in these scenarios, you have to take the entire control of the network, and nobody wants that. Key, if you are using, like example, let's take the example of Atlassian. If you are using Atlassian, Atlassian doesn't want key. You are taking entire control of their service. You cannot do that. You cannot point their domains forcefully to your servers. It's
Got
their
it.
thing.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
So in this BYOK, the solution is sitting on the client, the customer's premise, or
Yeah.
it is?
It's based on the organizational premises only.
Okay, so your data, whatever application is being run, it is going through the BYOK proxy and then it goes to the server.
Exactly.
Okay.
So for that, we just used our zero trust network. So basically in zero trust, you have your endpoint securities. In endpoint securities, you just force your end users, your employees, to just go through your network only. So have you heard about our CASB solution? So in that also, we just enforce the users to use your network IPs only. So if they just try to access it from somewhere else, they won't be able to access that data only. So that's how you just maintain your data integrity part. Anybody else?
Okay. Let's take one last question. And
Are we using any algorithms, AES standards like for this bring your own key? Public, private?
BYOK model works on multiple algorithms. It totally depends on, basically you are designing your BYOK solution. So in this solution, you can use any type of encryptions like you mentioned AES encryptions, which is a very strong encryption. Next, you can just make a custom encryption based on your algorithms, and you can just use the RSA algorithm as well in that scenarios. So it's basically encrypting the values and decrypting the values part.
so if there are any other questions, we can take them off stage as our time was limited and this is it. I hope you enjoyed the session and thank you so much for patiently listening to us.